You know, there is sad. There is pathetic. And then there is the Republican senator from Texas, Ted Cruz. And I want to play for you a bit of a monologue from Lawrence O'Donnell last night, where he just tears into Ted Cruz for again, I try not to throw around insults, but this is the term that is just pumping through my head. The pathetic behavior of a man who had to listen to and observe Trump insult his wife, insult his father, and then had to bow down to Trump afterwards. Correction, had to choose for some reason to do that. And yesterday, Trump traveled to the Capitol to meet with Republicans. And there's this moment where Trump's leaving the room. And it just embodies, it is the Republican Party manifested into a moment where Trump's walking out of the room, and so many people who've said horrible things about him, who he said horrible things about as well, are standing there clapping and just trying to get a little smile, a little wink from the dear leader. And that moment will be shown in this monologue, but the specific focus is Ted Cruz here.
There was real suspense then going into the 2016 Republican convention about whether or not the deeply offended Senator Cruz would even endorse Donald Trump, the Republican nominee for president. But Senator Cruz looked into his heart and found nothing. Nothing that would prevent him from endorsing the presidential candidate who attacked and lied about his father and attacked and lied about his wife. And there was Senator Cruz today in that lineup of utterly egoless Republican men craving their moment with Donald Trump, craving a possible handshake or a possible pat on the back or a wink or a smile, a glance, anything from Donald Trump. Watch now, Senator Cruz crave that moment after Donald Trump passes by Senator Cruz and pays more attention to other, more obscure people in the room.
If you appreciate and enjoy the content that we make each day, I would greatly appreciate you for clicking that subscribe button. Lindsey Graham, too. You did a great job, sir.
He kept clapping after Donald Trump left the room. After the door was closed, did he think Donald Trump could see through the door?
It's just hard to even watch. What are you doing, Ted Cruz? And Lindsey Graham? And the clapping. I went back and and watched the 5 minutes of remarks Trump delivered to see, was there some thing he said that was so rousing, so inspiring, that it would justify just a whole minute of clapping as he leaves the room? And once the door shut, gosh, I'm just so in awe of that individual who sicked a mob on the Capitol. People chanting, "Hang a fellow Republican," because he didn't follow the orders of Trump. And many of these people in that room said Trump was to blame. They don't say that anymore, but they said it at one point. They understood at one point. And we'll get back to Ted Cruz being pressed on why on earth he can look past what Trump has said. But just to be clear, it's actually less consequential that Ted Cruz is supporting Trump despite what was said about his wife and father. Less consequential than him choosing to support Trump after we all observed Trump try to end our democratic process, right? That's just the basic thing we have to bring this back to. Not to mention a moral man like Ted Cruz in the party of family values, supporting the civilly liable rapist. And the convicted felon who got that conviction based on falsification of business records relating to trying to cover up his affair with a porn star while his wife was at home with a newborn child. And we could go through the whole list. But that is so profound in its broader indictment of the lack of serious principles of this modern MAGA Republican Party. But on January 6th, do you remember when Tucker Carlson just publicly brutalized Ted Cruz? And I say brutalized in this sense, not in an exciting, yay, watch Ted Cruz, because what this debate is over is deranged, which is Ted Cruz had a moment of being reasonable and called January 6th a violent terrorist attack. And Tucker Carlson was so mad. And so Ted Cruz went on his show to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Even though he said the truth in a rare little instance of honesty.
Carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose. And
politically motivated violence you could identify as terrorism. Absolutely.
I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of...
So you get the point. Had to apologize for saying that January 6th was a violent terrorist attack. Also, as Lindsey Graham was standing there waiting for his one moment of love from the dear leader, he said he was out. He said, I used to like a lot of things about Trump, but I'm out. This was on January 6th because of what happened. And it's so obviously aggravating, but just disturbing to the bone and the heart to see people who aren't just wrong, but they know they're wrong. They know they're doing a thing they've previously spoken out against, right? They understood what it was that January 6th represented, the abandonment by the sitting president of any dedication to the peaceful transfer of power. Him sitting by and watching it happen and refusing to call the mob off. Not to mention the weeks and months that led up to that day where these schemes were being implemented to try to block the peaceful transfer of power. And that moment was seen for what it was by many of these Republicans. And then they realized, oh, it may be my political interest to abandon what I already said and continue supporting Trump. So much so that I'm going to stand and... And it is pitiful. Now, here's a compilation of Republicans after this meeting on Capitol Hill. Very complimentary of Trump, and it's cringy.
Donald Trump speaking on Capitol Hill. He just met with senators, had a business roundtable earlier this morning as well. He'll be talking about his legislative plan and his agenda. As you can see here, we're going to listen in to a standing ovation.
He was funny. He was joking around constantly with everyone. He was really sweet to me. He said to Speaker Johnson, he goes, okay, you got one more seat. You need to be tougher. He saw me. I was sitting back a little ways. he saw me in there and he was like, "Hello, Marjorie." He's always so sweet and recognizes me.
And you know what Trump meetings are like. He's electric. He's got an incredible fastball. And I think that it was just exciting after all he'd been through how strong this man is. I've never seen someone be able to take all the heat that he's taken and come in there ready to lead. It took him about 2 minutes. I thought of you when he said this. Drill, baby, drill.
Yes.
Yes.
He said very complimentary things about all of us. We had sustained applause. He said, "I'm doing a very good job." I mean, we're grateful for that.
He cares about customer experience. He cares about what people are experiencing. And then that feeds into his thinking. I mean,
what I would say today about the Senate engagement with President Trump, he was the team captain, and we were glad he was leading us. Everybody in that room is dying for him to get back in office. He wants us to win the Senate so we can put judges on the bench. He talked about him helping us. It was the single best meeting I've ever seen between the United States Republican senators and President Trump.
Goodness gracious. Just uncomfortable. So don't think for 1 second that there is a Republican Party in this moment without MAGA. I don't think the distinction makes sense anymore. To say, yeah, sure, you have this MAGA wing, but then you have the normal, reasonable Republicans. There are more rational Republicans, but the party, the infrastructure, the establishment is Trump. It is MAGA. And that's why for some time I've been saying the way that we stop that is voting against the entire Republican Party. Because that's the way a message will be heard loud and clear that will force a political organization for its own survival, right? You can't exist as a political organization if you can't win elections, to move past, obviously political survival, I just want to specify that, to move past MAGA. That's what we have to force by voting over and over against all Republicans until they realize the politically toxic component, which is MAGA, can't be a part of our brand, a part of our structure anymore. Here's the moment I was referring to where Ted Cruz is asked about the previous attacks against him and him supporting Trump nevertheless.
Family. They targeted not just your dad, but also your wife. And I think a lot of people sitting at home would say, well, that's pretty cynical. I mean, this is someone who attacked your own members of your family. And what we learned from this testimony is that not only did Donald Trump know about it, he coordinated it.
Look, I understand, but I knew then it was lies. It was lies then.
But you didn't know Donald Trump himself was coordinating it.
Of course I did. I said he did. It was obvious. And at the end of the day, I'm a big boy. And as I said, I could have made a choice. Listen, if I were a private citizen, I could decide my feelings are hurt and I'm just going to leave. But if I do that, I can't do my job. And I care about my job.
Right. So sometimes I think it's easy to say with elected leaders, why does character really matter? Because as long as they promise to support the things that you want to see implemented, then it's all good. This is why character matters. When Trump got elected, we didn't know exactly how he'd be destructive. The particulars of, for example, how he would try to hold on to power despite losing the next election. We didn't know how these Republicans would interact with that transition into a more authoritarian project of their party. But the low character gave a lot of people an indication that something bad was coming. So we should value character in our leaders because we don't know what's going to come. We didn't know the pandemic was going to happen. We didn't know about all these different factors that would be in place, but regardless of what you know or don't know, you should value character because that will always yield better results in the long run. And the fact that we have so many leaders like Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and others who have such low character is part of why the Republican Party has crumbled into the party that it is now. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. And if you want to get the Daily Bonus Show, you can do so by clicking that join button below.